The Carnival of Nightmares, a clown horror story of killings and kidnappings. In the small town of Crestfall, where life was quiet and neighbors still knew each other's names, the summer carnival was the highlight of the year. People from neighboring towns would flock to Crestfall to experience the rides, games, and colorful performances that filled the air with laughter and joy. Yet, something dark lurked behind the brightly lit tents and the whimsical music of the carnival. A sinister force waited for the right moment to strike. The legend of a clown named Grimsby had long been part of local folklore. Decades earlier, Grimsby had been a popular performer at the carnival. His exaggerated face paint and wild antics had delighted audiences, but Grimsby's life had ended in a tragic accident, or so people were told. During one performance, a fire had broken out in his tent, and he was said to have burned alive. However, whispers in town claimed that Grimsby had not died in the fire, but had instead gone mad, disappearing into the night, and taking revenge on those who wronged him. But legends fade, and with time, the story of Grimsby became a tale to frighten misbehaving children. That was until the summer carnival returned to Crestfall. The disappearances begin. It was a warm Friday evening when the carnival arrived. The townspeople gathered in excitement, but beneath the buzz of anticipation, something felt off. Parents noticed it first. The clowns seemed eerier than usual. Their smiles lingered too long and their eyes seemed empty, as if the joy they projected was a mask hiding something far darker. That first night, a local boy named Timmy Langston went missing. His parents had let him wander the carnival with friends, assuming it was safe in the midst of the festive chaos. When they realized he hadn't returned home, panic set in. The town searched high and low, but there was no sign of the boy. The police were called, but they found no leads. No one had seen him after he left the carnival grounds. The next night, another child disappeared, then another. By the third night, the carnival had turned into a place of dread. The once excited crowds thinned out, parents holding their children close and avoiding the tents where clowns performed. The town's sheriff, Roy Bennett, led an investigation, suspecting foul play. He questioned the carnival workers, but none of them seemed to know anything. The clowns in particular were unnervingly quiet, their painted faces betraying no emotion. One clown, however, stood out. He was taller than the others, his white face paint cracked as though aged. His mouth was drawn into a permanent grin, but his eyes were black pits that seemed to follow you no matter where you stood. He didn't perform with the other clowns, but he was always there, standing at the edge of the crowd, watching. The discovery. Determined to find answers, Sheriff Bennett patrolled the carnival after hours. The place was deserted, the rides still, and the laughter replaced by the eerie creak of empty tents swaying in the wind. As he moved deeper into the carnival grounds, he noticed something strange, a tent that hadn't been there before. It was small, hidden behind the larger attractions, and it looked old, its fabric tattered and faded. The sheriff approached the tent cautiously, drawing his flashlight and sidearm. He pulled back the flap and stepped inside. The air inside was thick, suffocating, and the smell of decay hit him like a wave. His flashlight flickered, revealing a horrifying sight. Children's clothes scattered on the ground, streaked with blood. Bennett's heart raced as he moved further into the tent, his light falling on an old chest. He opened it and froze. Inside were dozens of dolls, each crudely stitched together, their faces painted like clowns. But these weren't just dolls, their heads were made of human skulls. Suddenly, a low, raspy laugh filled the tent. The sheriff spun around, his flashlight illuminating the tall clown with the cracked face. Grimsby had returned. The hunt for Grimsby. Word of the sheriff's discovery spread quickly through the town, and the carnival was shut down, but Grimsby was still out there. The clown killer had taken more than a dozen children, and the town was gripped by fear. Patrols were set up, curfews enforced, but every few nights another child vanished, leaving behind only a single balloon tied to the child's front door. A group of townspeople, led by the sheriff, decided to take matters into their own hands. They tracked the disappearances to an abandoned part of town, a place that had been left to rot after the fire that supposedly killed Grimsby. It was there, in the ruins of an old carnival tent, that they found his lair. The tent was filled with grotesque trophies, pieces of the children Grimsby had taken, twisted into nightmarish displays. Clown dolls made from human bones lined the walls, their eyes empty, their mouths sewn into grotesque grins. In the center of the tent was a large mirror, and behind it, they found Grimsby's real face. He was no longer just a man. His body was gaunt and twisted, his skin pale and cracked like the face paint he once wore. His eyes were sunken, black holes that seemed to devour light. He attacked them, his movements impossibly fast for a figure so skeletal. One by one he overpowered the men, dragging them into the darkness of the tent. Sheriff Bennett was the last to face him. He fired his weapon, but the bullets seemed to have no effect on the clown. Grimsby's laugh echoed through the tent as he closed in on the sheriff, his long, bony fingers reaching out to claim him. But Bennett had come prepared. As Grimsby grabbed him, the sheriff pulled out a small vial of holy water and smashed it against the clown's chest. Grimsby let out an inhuman scream, his body convulsing as the water burned his flesh. His grip loosened, and the sheriff broke free, running from the tent as it collapsed in on itself. The ground beneath it seemed to swallow the remains, leaving nothing but scorched earth where the carnival had once stood. The disappearances stopped, and the town of Crestfall slowly returned to normal. But the horror of what had happened lingered in the minds of everyone. The carnival never came back, and the children who had been taken were never found. Sheriff Bennett left town soon after, unable to shake the nightmares of Grimsby's face. Some say they still see balloons tied to front doors in Crestfall, a silent reminder that Grimsby may not be gone for good. And every now and then, when the wind howls just right, you can hear a faint, eerie laugh echoing through the night. The clown may have been defeated, but the fear he sowed in Crestfall would never truly die.